Hi everyone, welcome to the TriEssence martial art channel. Now I haven't been able to upload videos in quite some time, and the reason for that is because the friend slash student that I also make video with was unavailable because his parents are visiting him from Hong Kong, and of course he works 6 days a week. Even on Sunday he sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. When he doesn't work, we come together to make videos. So obviously when his parents are here and they only come here once a year, that one day out of the week that he has free, he had to spend time with his folks. So unfortunately that's the reason why we couldn't make videos, and that was supposed to be like a month thing, but now it's been dragging on indefinitely because as everyone should know by now, coronavirus is ravaging all across the globe, and Hong Kong being one of the closest places to the center of pandemic, which is China, is pretty bad there. So since his folks got here, they decided that they're gonna stay here until the pandemic, kind of calms down or dies out before they're gonna go back to Hong Kong. And so it took more than a month, and after that, coronavirus has finally made its debut in South Africa, and now everyone just sort of don't want to meet up with other people anymore, because you don't really know who has the virus and who doesn't. It's like, especially worse here because like in China, Hong Kong, and some other country, they will monitor you, they will screen you at airports, they will check if you are contagious. But in South Africa, they're not doing anything to actually check at the airport, right? If you fly from China, you fly from Hong Kong, you fly from Italy, Iran, any of these places, they don't check at the airport. You just get off and you come in. So we don't actually know. I think to this day there are maybe 7 cases of coronavirus confirmed, but we don't actually know how many are hidden because no one's actually monitoring the airport and the customs. So every day there are people from those pandemic regions that are coming in, which is why the first month was delayed. His parents was here for visit, and his parents stays longer, and then now his parents are still here, but not even his parents are gone. It's gonna be risky to meet up with anyone other than your own immediate family to see every day. So unfortunately, I can't say how long this is gonna take before we're able to make videos together. But in the meantime, I'm gonna try to make videos that require only myself. There are also, I think, 1 or 2 videos that we've made previously that I haven't uploaded, so I'm gonna upload them in the near future. So I'm gonna try my best to make sure that new content are still going to be uploaded onto the channel, but unfortunately there will be delay, and it wouldn't be on the same progression as I would like to be, right? Because of this pandemic, which is quite serious, across the globe. So I will urge all my viewers that you also need to be careful, right? Even when it's not serious yet in your country by news, it doesn't mean that the threat is not already there. So maybe try to avoid crowded areas. Wash your hand, be careful who you contact with. Look, ultimately I believe that, if it's your time to go, it's your time to go. And if it's not your time to go, it's not really, it doesn't really matter. For example, in 2003, I was in China when SARS happened, right, in Beijing. And I wasn't wearing mask, I wasn't wearing gloves, I was still going around everywhere. Until one day, I walk out onto the bus. I was the only passenger in the entire bus, which never ever happens in Beijing, right? It's always packed. And then I realized, okay, this is getting really serious. When I get off, look at the street, there's like nobody there, right? Beijing is always packed with people all the time, except in Chinese New Year when the outsiders go back to their hometown, village, or wherever. That's the only time where Beijing is kind of, have no one on the street. But during SARS, that's how it feels like. And so I'm not too concerned about the virus myself, but I don't want to get the virus and then pass it on to my family. So that is my main concern for not wanting to visit people at this at the moment of crisis. Is that I don't want my family to get infected, and if I get infected and I die, I don't really care that much, but I don't want other people close to me to have the same fate, which is why I'm kind of I'm more careful at this moment. Anyway, so that's the reason why I haven't been able to upload the videos that I plan to upload. But anyway, so today is going to be the 2nd episode on the metaphysical side of internal martial art. So for those of you that don't know, I've made a series of videos. Well, there is one video in my free content about the 4 fundamental forces on internal martial art, right? That's basically talking about skeletal force. I mean, not saying that the muscles are not used at all, but in internal martial art, the skeleton bones are more used. We focus more on that than the muscle. So obviously you can't not use muscle at all, but given the right context, we use as less muscle as possible, as least tension as possible, and use a skeletal frame. So if you haven't watched that, you can go watch that first, because that's the first video in the entire series on explaining the real knowledge of internal martial art. Now after that, I've also made a series of videos explaining in detail each of the 4 fundamental forces. Those you're able to find on my Patreon site if you become a Patreon supporter. And after that, we move on to the next mini-series, which is on the metaphysical side of internal martial art. Because the skeletal force, the fundamental forces, compression, expansion, rotation, relax, sinking, opening, closing, those are the physical things that we can actually see. And even if you can't see, you can feel it, right? Physical force. And then the next part, which is the metaphysical side, are much harder to explain or understand, and it's a part where a lot of confusion and mistakes happen. Right, so I already made the first video, which is on E, or the intention of internal martial art. This is going to be the second episode. We are going to talk about perhaps the most controversial topic in the entire internal martial arts world, which is Qi, or should I say in the entire Chinese martial art world, right, which is Qi. Now Qi is a very convoluted, confusing, and controversial topic. Partially, one of the main reasons is because the idea of Qi is not 100% specific in the Chinese language or culture. Okay, what that means is if I say Qi, it could mean a variety of things. It doesn't pinpoint to just one thing, which is why it becomes very hard to pinpoint the real meaning or the real substance that Qi, the word Qi refers to. Alright, so first we're going to look at Qi as in air. Okay, that is probably the most fundamental or the most basic meaning of Qi, which is air. Right, 大气, which is the atmosphere, 空气, which is air, 氧气, which is oxygen. So anything that floats around, even wind at some point, can be referred to as qi. So that in Chinese, in the olden day Chinese, are referred to 天地之气, right? It's the qi that is comprised between heaven and earth, so to speak. So that's the first form of qi, and it's the most easy to understand. From there, we can extend to breathing, 吸气 and 呼气, which is breathing in qi and exhaling qi. Okay, so now obviously that's easy to understand, because if this air that around us is called qi, then when we inhale and exhale, we are basically inhaling and exhaling qi. So again, that's quite simple to understand. That's why when we say control your breathing, now we say control your 呼吸, but in some contexts you can say control the inhaling of qi, the intake of qi. And that's the second sort of meaning of qi. And from here we can branch off to the external styles, right? Basically in Chinese language, if we say someone's got strength, we say, he has li qi. Li is strength, the physical strength, and qi, as you should all know, is this qi thing, right? So in the phrase li qi, this qi refers mostly to breathing. So the Chinese people believe that the strength of your breath, or how deep you can breathe, how much you can breathe, right? How much your lung can expand, directly affect how much raw strength you can have. So that's why when we say someone's strong, we don't just say he's got li, we say he got li qi. And you can see a good representation of this in a lot of external styles, such as Honga, right? One of the third form, iron thread or iron line, depending on your translation, right? 铁线拳. It's a style that comprised specifically of various ways of breathing that correspond to the movement, when to inhale, when to exhale, that to train your breathing and synchronize that with strength training. so that you become stronger. And a lot of external style, when talking about training qi, they are sort of referring to this concept, right? So they're actually not talking, at least the first layer of the concept is not the qi. We're going to eventually get to the mystical side of qi, but the very visible inhaling and exhaling and how that affects strength. I've also been told that in some of the older yoga, right, not the current commercial yoga, but in olden days Indian yoga, they also believe that through controlling of breathing, opening chakra, a person can become stronger. And we can see a similar thing, although they don't specifically talk about this as a special thing, but we can also see it in modern sport, and especially combat sport, right? When they do stuff, they also have to correlate the emotions, when you do strength and stuff with qi. If you want to put something up, you inhale. When you want to put something out, you exhale. You can't pick something up and exhale, it doesn't work. And it's kind of hard to put something up and inhale. It also doesn't work. So qi, the breathing side of qi, correlate to how your body generates strength. Right, that is li qi. So the first layer, the air, nothing to argue about. Second layer, breathing and how breathing affects strength, is also kind of easy to understand. So these two parts, there should be no controversy, no argument, right? Everyone should accept them to be true. It becomes complicated and problematic when we go to the next layer, which is nei qi, the internal qi, right? So if we start from the beginning again, so there's air qi, we inhale qi, which is hu xi qi, and then once it gets into the body, it becomes internal qi. And when it comes to this point, often there will be two groups of people. There are people who say, okay, qi does not exist because this internal energy that flows in our body, we can't measure it. You cut open the body, you can't see the flow of qi. There's nothing there. So therefore, by definition of scientific analysis, qi does not exist. It is a fabricated concept. On the other side, you have people who are like hippies, right? They believe that qi is magical, almost like the Force in Star Wars. And they believe that if they meet the right, old master in China, can teach them the secret to be like a Jedi Knight and be able to do crazy things with this mystical energy. Now, like everything else, if you've been following my channel, you know where I stand. Is that I always believe that two extremes to the one side or the other side are incorrect. The truth, most of the time in this world, no matter what field it is, lies somewhere in the middle, right? The truth suddenly lies in one extreme or the other. It lies somewhere in the middle. So, in a nutshell, there is something that is happening to the body, but it is not what the chief fanatics think. But also something that does exist, so it's not like what the non-believers say that qi completely don't exist. So from the internal qi, some of the fanatics go a step further, more extreme, and they believe that you can nei qi vai fang, which means internal qi get projected externally. Well, whether it is to heal a sick person like Reiki, or to control a person like some of these Tai Chi masters do, or like no touch KO, right? They believe that they can send qi out like a shockwave, like Kamehameha or Hadouken. So that is like the most extreme level of qi. So we go from the air qi to breathing qi to internal qi, and then to the internal qi manifesting outside the body as an energy projection qi. So I'm going to come out and just say that the energy projection qi is completely nonsense. It's fake and it does not exist. Okay, it doesn't even exist as far as the strict Chinese internal martial arts concept and principle goes. If you look at the actual classical script of internal martial arts, none of them say that you can project your qi out of the body. Right? There are something that you project out of the body, but it's not qi. It is shen. Shen is the only thing that gets projected outside the body, and it doesn't work the same way as Hadouken, right? It's not an energy blast. And Shen will be the next episode, so we're going to go into depth of what that is and what it is not. So we're not going to go into detail in this episode, but just know that within the boundaries of internal martial art, qi cannot be projected out. Okay, when something goes out of the body, it becomes Shen. When it's inside the body, it is qi. So based on the principles of internal martial arts, all those guys who project qi out, or who claim they project qi, are already fake and wrong, right? There's nothing need to be argued. They're completely wrong because it's never been recorded as part of any of the authentic internal martial art. So if you are, if you're learning from someone who claim he can do that, I would say, stay away from them. Now, so where does this idea of internal qi get projected externally? Where does this concept come from? It actually comes from qigong. Now, some of you might think, okay, but isn't qigong part of martial art? The truth is, it is not. Okay, qigong, this phrase or this name or this category qigong was not coined, or at least not popularized, until the early 80s, right? The late 70s to early 80s, during a movement in China known as the qigong fever, right? Qigong热. That's when the term qigong became very, very popular, and suddenly everyone in China is talking about qigong. They're studying qigong, they're training qigong. But if you look at the early 70s or 60s, 50s, all the way back to the origin of internal martial art, no one ever talked about qigong, right? Even internal martial art, like Tai Chi, Xing Yi, Ba Gua, they are 内功, right? Internal training, but they are not qigong. You might think, okay, qigong is another name for 内功, but it is not, okay? In fact, any decent, self-respecting Chinese martial art master, for example, my own Tai Chi master, as well as my Wuxing Tongbei master, as well as my, Yiquan teacher from previously, they will be offended if you say, you're doing qigong, right? My Tai Chi master, he will do his stuff, and whenever someone comes to him and say, oh, what kind of qigong are you training? He'll just turn around and walk away. He wouldn't even indulge them in a conversation. You might say maybe that kind of attitude is incorrect. You should educate people. But that's not the point of the discussion. The discussion here is to tell you that they actually get offended when you think what they train is qigong. The reason for that is because they lived through that period of qigong fever, so they know the origin of qigong, and they see qigong as something that is not martial art. Okay, so this thing only sort of be mixed with martial art much later on, especially in the West. So the Western people find it difficult to distinguish between what is martial art and what is qigong. But in China, at least with the authentic masters, the definition, the division is very, very clear, and they want nothing to do with the word or the term qigong. So just exactly where does qigong come from, right? So first of all, look at the early 60s, right? From the late 50s to the early 60s in China, when the government started to take, the communist government took over in 49, and after that they started to tighten the grip, which eventually resulted in the Cultural Revolution. So during this period, obviously martial art becomes less useful. You can't go around and punch people, kick people anymore, or get into fights. So, and there was no sparring competition, there was no tournament, and so people starting to not wanting to learn how to fight. At least majority of them didn't. So a lot of these masters they have to start to find another way to get students and make an income. People such as Wang Xiangzhai, right, the founder of Yiquan, as well as Hu Yaozhen, one of the famous Xing Yi master who taught Feng Zhiqiang. Among a lot of others too, they eventually started teaching health exercise, 养生功, right? 养生 means to health training, or a training that will make you longevity training, right? Yeah, 养生功 pretty much is longevity training. So they started teaching that to a lot of retired government officials, right? Like I know Hu Yaozhen at some point was teaching in an old age home for government officials in Beidaihe. At that time they didn't call it qigong, they called it 养生功, okay, or 内功. So basically they stripped away the martial application, right, the skeletal training, right, the compression, expansion, all of those forces, because these government officials and retired government officials, they don't want to fight people. They don't want to do stance training to open their joints up and to hit harder. They just want to be healthy. So they start to remove some of the martial side of it, and by martial side I don't mean the application, right? I don't mean teaching them how to do a form or how to block and punch, but they basically skip the bone side. Because bone side training are very painful and very tiring and very hard, so they skip that completely and only teach them the next layer, which is the internal flow. So that eventually became a thing, and also a lot of people are starting to do Tai Chi for health purpose. right? Especially after Deng Xiaoping wrote, 太极拳好. Yes, even before that, Mao Zedong at some point was also promoting the health benefits of Tai Chi. Not too sure about that. But so you can see from the early 60s onward, people were starting to train a small portion of Chinese martial art purely for health purpose and not for martial purpose. Now this carried on during Cultural Revolution. It became it died down a bit because of the revolution. Everything else pretty much died down other than the revolution itself. And then after the revolution, it started to pick up again, during which time, I think around the 60s and 70s in America, they had a huge hippie movement, right, where a lot of those people preached the idea of psychic power. I'm not sure if the government was directly involved, but I did hear stuff like, for example, the military were researching into people that has mind over matter, that can read minds, that can they're trying to train super spy who can pick up information from other people's mind, or they can move object within mind. There was a very hippie age in America. Okay, now we know that most of those claims are wrong, and they were just fraud and nonsense. But back then people didn't know, especially in China where they don't have direct contact to American information. So Chinese government sort of felt threatened, okay, what if they did be able to get super spy? I also know that Russia also started developing into that area, right? The stuff like Systema, those no touch stuff. I believe it also has its root, or at least have the reason, that those things were invented from that age. So Russia and America were trying to match each other, and China also kind of felt threatened. But instead of trying to deliver psychic power, which is a foreign concept, they thought, we'll look into our own stuff. And so that's pretty much where the idea of Qigong became quite popular. So all of a sudden, all around China, there are now these suddenly Qigong masters who used to be street performers, right? They do stuff that has a trick or an illusion to impress people, such as, breaking a chopstick with a throat, cutting bricks, breaking, big rock on the chest, to stuff like, write something, you write something, put in his ear, that he can, see what he can figure out what you wrote, or they spit in in newspaper, they roll it up, and then the newspaper bursts in flame, or cutting chopstick with paper. So a lot of these things starting to come up. They used, back in the days, in the Republic era, those things are considered street performing. Right? People didn't believe in them to be real or something that you can use in martial art, in conflict or other things. They were just performance, almost like magic tricks. But during this period, a lot of these guys come up and they claim they have supernatural power, so they can actually get funding from the government and they can actually make money from people. So that's pretty much how this Qigong fever became really huge. And I remember when I was a kid, in the early 80s, my primary school teacher, in fact the entire school, each teacher was tasked to ask each student to go home and let their parents write something on a piece of paper, fold it up, put in our ears, and see if we can guess what the word was written on the piece of paper. They were trying to find people who have these psychic talents. So that was how serious they were at the time, and they actually believed this thing to be true. So a lot of people starting to train Qigong, and they want to look into their own culture, and they believe that it can also bring them supernatural power. And this is when a lot of fraud and people with not pure intentions start to pretend to be Qigong masters and start to teach people exercises. Some of them, they did martial art and they took certain motions and training from martial arts, and then they start teaching. Others, stole some stuff from Buddhism or Taoism, like the different hand shou yin, right? The different hand seals or other things. And others, they just made stuff up, because there was such a demand for it. People didn't have the knowledge to authenticate what is real and what is not. So all kind of stuff sprouted. Stuff like Da Yan Gong, right? Stuff like Xiang Gong. You train this and you will smell like a flower. So all kind of weird stuff. Gong where the guy will start shaking and they can do random movements that they are not controlling, right? They believe that the qi is leading them in doing movements. They're all kind of crazy stuff. I remember my dad was also caught in this movement. So when I was very small, he used to take me to the park every morning, and we communicate with a big tree. We try to absorb the oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide, and then also we look at the sun and try to absorb the sun rays. All kind of weird, crazy trash, right? Eventually, my dad, kind of realized all of those things are trash and nonsense. Eventually, found, what he's looking for in Tibetan Buddhism. But a lot of other people, they got trapped in that for a very long time. And so that's where the whole idea of Qigong came about. And although Neigong, right, the early ones that some masters taught to retired government officials and other people, can have health benefit. A huge portion of this Qigong fever products are completely, utterly nonsense. It actually doesn't work. You might say, okay, but when I trained this Qigong with my teacher, I can feel, stuff happening in my body. Well, look, you do any exercise, you will feel something with your body, right? It doesn't mean what you're teaching is genuine. Genuine in the sense that what are you actually getting out of it? If you're trying to be healthier, well, quite frankly, if you just do exercise, you'll become healthier. Qigong doesn't have anything special over everything else. If you're trying to become better martial artist, you're going to be able to fight, well, you have to do martial art. Qigong doesn't help you. If you believe that by doing Qigong, you're going to build up enough Qi, that one day you can stand up and a Turken, well, sorry to inform you, it will never happen. Right, so that is where Qigong comes from and why Qigong has nothing to do with Chinese martial art and why Chinese martial art masters hate the idea of being misunderstood as Qigong. So all of those people that you see that they believe that their Qi can affect other people outside were a reminiscence of the Qigong fever era where they believe Qi and Qigong can give them superpowers.